about moving, about immigration, what it's like to start everything from scratch, what mistakes were made, and most importantly, how to minimize them so that the moves go as smoothly as possible. Still, are the challenges of moving good, bad, or should one have stayed? I am Natalia Iselievich. I have an international network of aesthetic centers. I have been in the beauty industry for 12 years. I have lived in Israel for 3 years. Before that, I lived in Moscow for 3 years, and prior to Moscow, I lived in Novosibirsk for 17 years. At 17, I moved from Ust-Ilimsk to Novosibirsk. So I left as a student, we moved to Moscow with 3 children, and now I have 4 children. And what is it like for such a large family to go through this emigration, repatriation, and to manage a business remotely? How could one possibly return back? Watch this video, let's go. First of all, it seems to me that if you are watching this video, you have probably been thinking about whether to move. But where to? Are you starting to learn about migration, or do you want to move to Moscow? Write in the comments here whether you are considering moving to another country, or if you want to relocate from a small town to the capital. I heard a phrase recently, the penthouse syndrome in Cheboksary. You know, when everything is good in your city, you can build a luxurious penthouse in a small town, but outwardly, can you imagine, it feels cramped and you want something more. And so, when I was living in Novosibirsk, I had a salon that was recognized as the best salon in the city for 3 consecutive years, and we made it into the top 10. My husband had a business, children who have already grown up, kindergartens, schools, nannies, helpers, grandmother, grandfather, summer house. In other words, you know, one could build a house, travel. And for 2 years, when you feel cold, when you are waiting for summer but there are mosquitoes, when you look for tickets to take our group of 5 somewhere to leave Novosibirsk and go abroad, you need a decent budget. My work, my studio charged me a lot. How can I leave if my business, which I have dedicated 12 years to, my team and the people who have worked with me for 5-7 years, how can I leave all of this behind? This is my creation. It took me 2 years to decide whether we were going or not. My husband and I discussed how to go. So here's the downside, the main downside. When you move, no matter if it's to the capital or a new city, you start everything from scratch, like from absolute zero. It's a complete reset. You forget who you were in your previous place. Moscow taught me this, because it seemed everything was established for you in the region. But at that time, we were working without marketing, without sales. So, you know, we have this kind of informal network, and in the regions, it's easier to allow business and work. There's less competition, no matter how you look at it. And here I am, that girl who wasn't prepared, meaning that this is my flaw and mistake, that we were not prepared. And we immediately sold everything sharply, in the summer. The apartment, the car. We are getting ready to go to Moscow. I say that's it. If I succeeded in the region, then of course I will succeed in Moscow. That's it. And I, being so naive, think, oh, everyone is waiting for me. And I immediately arrive without any marketing experience, without websites, without anything at all. We open a 200 square meter space in Shablovka. This year has been the most difficult of my life. And the downside is that you are starting from scratch, even though it's the same language and the same culture. In Moscow, the environment is completely different. If I hadn't taken such risks, if I hadn't immediately opened a clinic with a medical license, it would have all been easier. Well, what's done is done, I admit. It was a very strong school, and I am very grateful. Everyone did their part, everything was organized. The salon in Moscow has been operating for 5 years now, thanks to my team, which continues to work remotely. My advice to you is, if you are flying with children, especially if, for example, you are in a capital city, make sure everything is in one area. Ideally, if there is a job nearby, that would be great. So the first downside is that you are starting everything from scratch. And when you live in the capital, of course, it is a different rhythm of life. It is opportunities. Strong people came from all over the country, and there is competition here. There is an environment. And besides the competition, there is a different market here, and you grow along with it. Therefore, thanks to the city's surroundings plus inspiration, there are many places to go. It was great. I just love Moscow. Everything is wonderful. We would live there and everything is good. And in Israel, we found ourselves, you could say, by chance. How did it happen? After 3 years of living in Moscow, we decided to get a second passport. A passport that allows visa-free travel to almost 150 countries. And so we thought, not moving, because we had just gotten back on our feet. And moving to another country with 3 children means starting all over again. We had just exhaled. We had finally gotten on our feet. We went through all of this and everything started off great. Everything was awesome, Moscow. And how did it happen that we are flying on vacation for a month with 3 suitcases, with the kids, with everyone? We sat in the hotel for 10 days after the coronavirus. And here we are actually, Nicole. We came out of the Corona hotel. We had a quarantine for 10 days, and now we are out. And we are pregnant. And it was this pregnancy, the arrival of our daughter, when we had just moved to Israel, that motivated us to stay, because we had changed. Israel has changed a lot in the past 10 years. I wanted to be pregnant and spend time in the warmth while the child is still small. And in general, we tried to stay, and actually here we still are. We stayed in the city, simply asking our relatives, and after being here for a little while, we gathered some information. I am grateful for my profession because I knew that with my hands, I started doing permanent makeup at home while I was pregnant. And among our family, the children, of course, know the language better than anyone now. For me, since I have experience communicating with clients, I can express myself better, but my profession is not tied to the language. My earnings do not depend on my language skills. The same goes for my husband. Therefore, Stas chose to take it easy. His English is sufficient for him, as he communicates in English and Russian at work. But I definitely advise that if you are moving to another country, knowing the language is essential, as it allows you to understand the cultural code and opportunities. I am currently learning and continuing to do so. I would say that the downside of moving is that you are forced to learn the language, but that's also a plus because you become a citizen of the world, you develop your mind, and it is both a minus and a plus. I love Israel. I really like it here. And I really like the people and the society. I am very grateful that my children are growing up in this environment, in this positive society. Yes, there are external circumstances. As for the situation now, there is a war and this tension, but again, that's just how it is, and you can't influence it. Life goes on, and it is important to live your life and influence what you can. Regarding the environment when you move, with each move, we grew and developed. The environment forces you, when you have reset everything, to undergo new training, new courses both in business and in spirituality, to endure it all. We always grew up, and there are many people we were friends with, but we stopped communicating. Probably with 70% of the distance, the interests are simply different. Therefore, at the moment you move, it seems that you can't go anywhere without friends. But guys, everyone changes, and it's normal for your surroundings to change by the age of 40. Because you change, I really appreciate it. Moreover, the world is so online now. You can communicate, fly, meet in other territories, and travel together. The next downside of the fear of moving and emigration is the children. How will I manage with the kids? It's tough with children after all. Well, I won't say it's easy, guys, but believe me, it's actually the children who adapt the easiest. The task is to have parents who will provide for them and create an environment. In terms of languages, my children have learned from scratch in just 2 months. They just started to understand Hebrew in 2 months. They simply came to a school where only Hebrew is spoken. They were in shock. At first, one of them said, "Where have I ended up? I don't understand why everyone is shouting." After 2 weeks of resistance, we left them alone, and for a year, they just learned the language. Last year, they took a test in Hebrew, and they have a subject called Safa, and they wrote that the kids scored better on every test than all the Russian-speaking children in the class, who were even born here. It is much easier for children. Children do not think about mortgages, apartments, payments, or business. Their brains are simply relaxed. They are in an environment where they absorb the language and communicate. First of all, consider the financial aspect. You will need a larger apartment and a bigger car for the children. Therefore, any move. Well, probably that's a downside. Let me put it this way. A significant downside of moving. Relocation costs each person millions of dollars. Everyone has their own path. Believe me, guys, it's a risk, it's a reset, but at the same time, it's growth. I won't say that my life is all rosy now, that everything is easy in Israel. I'm talking about that inner support when you've gone through both the move to the capital and immigration, repatriation here. You become stronger and more focused. It tests your family relationships because, well, going through certain moments can be quite a challenge. But I am very grateful to my husband because we have been through so much together. This person is my support, my wall. First of all, he needs to open a moving agency. All these documents, issues with the banks, but he has gained some gray hair, I will tell you this. Another downside of moving is that people often change their field of activity or profession. This can be both a plus and a minus. Sometimes there is a stereotype that starting at 40 is too late. Here, living in Israel, a girl at 35, 37 years old is not married, she is still a young woman. There are no stereotypes here about it being too late for her to have children or not to have children. The same goes for professions. Calmly, at 50 years old, people are mastering a new profession and enrolling in universities. I know many examples of individuals who, after 40, have entered IT professions and now lead security system departments in large companies, even though they started from scratch, of course. It is better to prepare in advance and choose a profession that I am grateful for my profession in beauty, because no matter where I am in the world, I will have my profession. Without the language, I arrived, I didn't know Hebrew at all, but I worked as a master at first. And looking back, I realize what an experience we have gone through, all the difficulties, but thanks to this, new opportunities are revealed. In every crisis situation, new opportunities arise. For example, my second project, ecolift.me, is a network of rejuvenation clinics around the world. We have already worked with dozens of masters to whom we have introduced this profession in the salon, a new procedure. Great, they are satisfied, their training paid off in a month, and the girls are earning in America, for example, now between $4,000 to $5,000 a month after the training. We have already helped these guys who moved to master a solid new profession. Here you are working with clients and earning a good income. My experience has shown that safe procedures for women are needed in any country. And so my second project, EcoLiftMe, was born after all these upheavals and difficulties. I am now so grateful for all this experience. So, friends, if you have moved, if you are currently considering a move, thinking about what to do, or if you are a master who wants to learn a new profession to earn more easily, I will leave links under this video for WhatsApp. You can contact the manager, fill out a questionnaire, and we will see and discuss how we can help you. During this time, we have already helped dozens of girls learn a new profession and start salons from scratch anywhere in the world. Guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, because it will help more people. Write and share your experiences in the comments, and see you in the new videos.